Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
You stumbled into some kind of show. It's got me. They call me Johnny Spoiler on them streets because I spoil movies, generally the ones that I love. If you've ever heard this show, then you know that's what I do. I'm joined again by the effervescent, always present, slightly tanned Jordan Savage, who brings them savage reviews on the show. Her movie skills as a critic are so critical, she doesn't even have to watch a movie to rate it for you, folks. That's what happens on this show.
It's true.
If you feel like we're podcast throwbacks, maybe. We're doing throwbacks, throwback movies. To help us define throwbacks, I thought I would do a dramatic reading of 3 entries from the Urban Dictionary. This is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First and foremost, throwback is a reject. When someone is an overall waste of time or space, referring to ice fishing, when you catch a fish that is not of suitable size, you throw it back in. And now here's the example of when a throwback is a reject. When a couple of douches with Ed Hardy shirts and mohawks walk by, look at these fucking throwbacks. That's a great entry.
Really good example. Yes.
That's perfect. But I'm thinking, like, actually, the Ed Hardy douchebags are going to be strolling through the streets and they're going to multiply, just add water, because, like, 90s fashion trends are going to be the throwback fashion thing of 2024. And it's going to happen. So you're going to see a lot of Ed Hardy douchebags walking around.
I don't know if Ed Hardy's going to make the cut, but I'm here for the 90s throwback. But we'll see. We'll see. You're right.
I also heard that floral patterns, as in flowers, was raging also. And fashionistas out there. That's not what this show is about, so that's all you're going to hear. Second definition, talking about something usually a good memory that happened a while back, most commonly used on social media, especially on Thursdays, i.e. Throwback Thursdays. Listen, there's a social media trend I'm going to talk about in a little while when we get into predictions for the year. However, this is the definition that most likely resembles tonight's show because we're doing throwback movies. So they are the memories of movies, nostalgic movies, whatever. There you go. I used to call them back in the day hits, even though they weren't always hit movies. I was like, oh, it's back in the day. I noticed that maybe they stopped saying back in the day. Like that was like something for me when I was in the middle school. You know what I'm saying? We were like, back in the day, man, back in the day. It was as good as like, oh, snap. Or cool beans, but I don't think anybody says any of those things anymore, so they probably don't apply. Look at that douchebag walking around saying cool beans. All right. Now, here's my favorite entry in the Urban Dictionary. Get ready for this. It's a little dirty. All right. If you haven't been listening, definitely tune in now. All right. The Urban Dictionary suggests that throwback means the remnants of a reach around administered by a flick of the wrist to one's face. Direct quote, after she jerked me off, I gave her a Spider-Man, which she quickly returned with a throwback. I got it in my eye and everything. Submitted by Dangerous Fish 1 on June 29th of 2019. Perfect entry. I agree with you. Definition 3, killer. That's what a throwback is. That's what a real throwback is.
That one was graphic. Like, you know, those people are really good.
So fun to read. Urban Dictionary is the most amazing thing that has happened to the internet since maybe the creation of the meme. That's like old school internet stuff.
Oh yeah, like E-Bombs World and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like getting E-Bombs World. Like let's get back to the why the internet was here. Let's see. Oh, I realized that the 90s are like as far as horror movies go, could be considered like a whole decade of throwbacks. And well, obviously we love 80s horror movies, but I never really mentioned the 90s. Obviously, besides being like teen Scream decade, right? Because of Screams, because of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I Still Know. I swear I have notes on something. It was open all night to the pages until I'm talking to Jordan. You know, of course. Isn't that how it goes?
It's always how it goes, you know?
Let's see. I got this little movie notebook, folks, and I like to write things down, and they're supposed to be pertinent to the show that we're in. Here's the quotes from the Nice Guys episode. Here's some notes on how to market a podcast. Oh, here we go. 90s horror movies. Check this out. So, obviously, like, this list could be expanded until the end of time. Not every horror movie's on here. You know, don't murder me because I don't mention the horror movie that you love. But look at this. Nightbreed, Jacob's Ladder, In the Mouth of Madness, Sleepwalkers, The Craft, Not a Living Dead 1990, Demon Knight, Bordello of Blood, Event Horizon, The Original Cube, Stigmata, Dead Alive, People Under the Stairs, New Nightmare, which was the one Freddy where Freddy comes into the real world. Actually, there's two Freddys when he comes in the real world. We're not talking about Freddy's Revenge, which is part 2, but New Nightmare is when, like, Freddy's essence, like, possesses Robert Englund and, like, attacks the actors in a Freddy Krueger movie, and it has, like, the original cast from the original Nightmare in it. The original Flatliners, I didn't realize. I thought that was 89, but it's listed as 1990. Scream 1 and 2, Graveyard Shift, Tremors, Candyman, The Craft, John Carpenter's Vampires, and it goes on. Like I said, it goes on and on and on. So I'm really surprised, actually, how many, like, decent horror movies there are in the 90s, because historically or categorically, like, if you listen to a bunch of movie podcasts, people have always trashed the 90s as, like, not having that many great horror movies. But as it turns out, there's a freaking lot of good horror movies in the 90s. Anyway, I've compiled predictions. There's, like, all these articles because it's the new year, blah, 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 2024. So I just compiled some predictions from, like, Where Developers, which is the name of the website. I've never heard of it, but I was looking up articles. And then I came across the New York Times predictions for 2024. I wrote a few down. We're going to react to them. I'm going to read them to Jordan. And you're going to get our reactions to, like, what the predictions for this year. Jocks are cool again. Because of Taylor Swift and her boyfriend, Travis, what's his name? Kelsey. My first reaction at the headline when I read it was like, were they ever cool? And I'm thinking, like, oh yeah, 1974 to 1994. Maybe the whole when the jock bubble probably popped. I remember back in them school days, there were still segregated social classes. You know what I'm saying? Like, but of course, just being one of them comedians could mingle. I was a mingler. The mingler is like a subset of, like, outcasts. It's like the outcast of outcasts. Like, it's funny, like, the party kids, like, right? Like, if there's, like, the friends of the friends, but they can't access stuff that people wanted, so they were included, right? Then there was, the pops, the popular kids, the preppies, the original run of the goths that South Park makes fun of, the redone punks, like the mods, the scooter mods. Let's see.
I feel like people who actually like sports don't love that Swiftie. Like, I don't think they are loving the Swiftie sports collaboration.
Like, it's going to ruin his football career or whatever.
Everyone's like, please don't talk to me about Taylor Swift when I'm watching sports. But you know what? Okay, sure. I'm here for it. I like collared shirts underneath my crew necks, you know?
New York Times is also predicting that Gen Xers and millennials are going to abandon social media altogether. I would love to. I'd love to have a mass exodus. Anybody over 21, just fucking jump off the bridge. Or, you know what I mean? Or like, I guess it's a bad analogy. Not jump off a bridge or go off a cliff, but I just want, like, a mass delete of apps. That would be like if a million people woke up tomorrow and suddenly, like, there was a million less people on Facebook or Instagram or whatever the other ones are. Like, and if you spend a lot of time in marketing as your day job, you begin to loathe social media as merit. Like it's like,
yes, yeah,
it's like being a burger flipper. I flipped 1,000 burgers. I no longer care about individual burgers,
right?
Because I flipped thousands of them. I don't care what cheese is on it. You know what I mean? Like ground beef is ground beef. So if you're in social media marketing and like, it's really funny to talk to clients because you have to get them excited about campaigns or like even. Folks, you want to peek behind the curtain? Last year sucked. It sucked for the podcast, except for my personal life, except for me professionally. Like things are not going well. And I've been on these interviews and I'm just like, I have no passion for it. I'm like on these interviews and they're like, why are you the best marketer for the job? And I'm just like, well, marketing is just marketing. You know what I mean? Like Facebook cans are Facebook things are Facebook things. Instagram is Instagram. Like what's funny about companies that need to do marketing? They have no goals. There's these things called key performance metrics or KPIs, folks.
KPIs, baby.
Jordan's having I'm introducing like a PTSD reaction because Jordan knows exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know if the listeners know what the hell I'm talking about, but
live, eat, and breathe it. But
I mentioned the only theme for this year is punk rock, like transparency. And if there's bullshit, we're not going to take the bullshit. We're definitely going to bring it up. I saw this amazing
I love it.
Interview with Cat Williams where he was just like, told the dirt on all the comedians, and the other comedians were like, they didn't deny it, but they obviously had their like reaction videos. You know what I mean? This just happened. Funny. And I was like, what a good theme for this year where you're just like, yeah, the shit sucks. Here's why it sucks. And if you don't like that it sucks, stop making it suck for everyone. You know what I mean? Like
out everybody. Yeah. And just, put it away.
Everybody's out this year. Podcast networks that have screwed me over, satellite radio companies that have screwed me over, startup companies in New York that have screwed me over. I'm gunning for you.
Nothing is in.
I have nothing to take. What do I have? An IP that I had to buy back? Like I'm dealing with a freaking record company. I didn't realize I was that much of a rock star, but I guess I am. You make us buy back our own IP. Put your ads on the show if you actually listen. That'd be good. Why are you sponsoring my show? Tell me why. Literally. Anyway. Don't literally tell me.
You
I don't
tell
want
them.
25 emails. Tomorrow's emails are going to be really fun. They're like, the dog food company is backed out, John, because you're a lunatic. Okay, yeah, good. Go feed somebody else's pets. Let's see. Tonight's throwback movie. Are we there? Did we arrive there?
I think we're there.
Ranting jokes. How many? Too many? Oh, yeah, we're like, fuck. I'm chewing up 10 minutes of time. Yeah. What kind of night are you having, Jordan?
Still day here, I guess. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're in different time zones. It's like, yeah.
I just got off work 17 minutes ago, so this is my wind down.
Except I kept reminding you of work for like 20 minutes.
Okay. It's okay.
See, the attitude shift, like it's not just like last year was about like positivity to a level of psychosis. And this year is, I don't have any patience or time
left to
for your BS. Get out of my way. Like, it just like
move.
Oh man. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Tonight's movie is called A Breed Apart. It's about a veteran turned conservationalist and a widow who meet a mountain climber hired to steal the bald eagle eggs. Rutger Hauer is the Vietnam vet that we're talking about. He's the main dude. You might know him from a little movie called Blade Runner. How about Flesh and Blood? How about The Hitcher? Blind Fury? Or Split Second? That's one of my personal favorites. And I included on the list one of Jordan's, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie edition. He plays the Dracula guy in there. Powers Boothe, he's a celebrated TV and voice actor. You might have seen him in Tombstone, Red Dawn, and I recently just discovered that he does one of the voices on Ben 10. I didn't know that. I didn't know he reached all the way into modern pop culture because he's like a career TV actor. He's been around he's dead now, but he was in the game for like 40 years or whatever. Kathleen Turner, you might have seen her in Body Heat, steaming up the screen. He was also Peggy Sue, and Peggy Sue got married. She was the serial mom, killing everybody in Serial Mom. She's in the drama comedy War of the Roses and Romancing the Stone. And also Brian James is in this movie. And Donald Pleasance. Donald Pleasance, you might know, as the doctor of the original Michael Myers.
Loomis.
There you go. In the original continuity of Halloween, and its first 5 sequels, he might have been in number 6. Yeah, he was in number 6. And Brian James, I know, is like the secret villain of Another 48 Hours and a detective in 48 Hours, and also he plays one of the androids with Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner, or replicants. Sorry, fancy word for the word that Blade Runner came up with for androids. Let's see. Yeah, that's the movie we're talking about. I don't know if Jordan has anything to contribute to this conversation about the movie, because I don't know how savage her stats are.
It's not even my stats. It's just the stats of the world on this movie. There's little to be told about A Breed Apart outside of what John just did, this fantastic cast and some of their works of art throughout their careers. I've just very few stats on this. One of them being the movie feature score was composed by Maurice Gibb. You probably know him from the iconic band The Bee Gees. They did use some majestic, what is the word I'm looking for? Trained eagles, obviously, for certain sequences in it. And then I think the most interesting thing about this movie is that when they had shot and filmed the entire movie all over, of course, North Carolina, when they were sending all the film back, one of the 4 reels never made it. And so if you've noticed, or if you've watched this movie before, or if you're even looking at reviews now, there's a lot of I guess reviews and there's people who are critical about how a lot of the storyline and the plots don't necessarily complete.
It's only noticeable in one part of the movie. Right before the love scene between the vet and the widow, like, there's a really intense, heated argument, and it feels like we're missing how the argument started. And I'm like, there's frames dropped here. I didn't know, like, a whole reel of film, but, like, with my own, like, I was, like, watching it going, oh, there's stuff left on the cutting room floor, or there's stuff missing from this scene. And so I wonder if that lines up with what you're saying.
Yes.
The soundtrack note is cool, too. This is why, because it sets the mood for the time and place the movie takes place in.
Oh, right? The Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Chef kiss.
Hell
yeah.
And,
absolutely.
What's the other thing you just said? what was your third
The trained
point?
eagles.
Oh, the trained eagles. I had no idea, because they all look like wild animals, but this movie is filled with birds.
Well,
how did I forget that? I was like, oh, I should bring up how many birds there are, because you just mentioned trained eagles. I didn't even know you could train an eagle, because I thought eagles were like,
well, back then
they got their own agendas, you know?
Well, and back then they were like for sure on the endangered species list. So it was like pretty relevant for its time for like conservation and, other things that are within the movie and the plot. So that's kind of why people did love it, although it didn't perform like the best when it came out. But yeah, like, the eagle population, bald eagle population is no longer, they're thriving. So they're no longer like on the endangered species list, but they were at the time of this movie. So people loved that. But yeah, because of one of the reels never arriving to LA, they had to reorganize around the missing scenes during the editing process, which is exactly explains what you had noticed in terms of like why some of the plots or conversations are incomplete. They also refer that to like Malden not having a backstory. It is very like briefly discussed. It's not talked about in detail. I feel like though they still did a decent job of kind of painting the picture of why he is the way he is. But yeah, that's it.
Before we go to our favorite bits, I want to remind everybody that we're an affiliate with Starz, which is the movie network. They got like 1,000 movies in their catalog, and I discovered today they have all 5 of the original Planet of the Apes rubber mask monster movies that Jordan loves so much. So check it out. I think their offer right now is like $3 a month for 3 months, which is $3 a month for those 5 movies alone. Freaking worth it. But there's, of course, other stuff in there. I saw Spotlight was in there. I saw a bunch of the there's that werewolf versus vampire series Underworld. I saw that there's some of the Underworlds were in there. It was a lot of killer stuff, guys. Anyway, so go grab that $3 offer. The link's in the podcast notes. It's on the blog. There's actually a button on our website. Whatever, you'll find it. Oh, now we've arrived at the favorite bits from our pre-apart.
The bits.
By the way, I like tight, good facts. I like the trivia being nice and tight.
I love it.
That was awesome.
Get in, get out, right?
Yeah.
I would say
because you know why? Because if they really care about the movie, go watch it. After you hear us jazz about it for 45 minutes, go freaking find the movie then, and then you'll learn all the other stuff about it.
Well, and here is my thing. Sometimes knowing the stats, like it does create some bias. And I've been told
it creates buzz, right? Or bias or buzz?
Bias. Some of them creates buzz. Some things.
I thought the favorite bits are what creates the bias.
I feel like the bits create the buzz, you know?
Damn.
So a little flip-floppy there. I really like what's his name's character? Let me figure it out. Powers Boothe's character. He goes by I forget whatever his character's name is.
I call him the betrayer.
Yeah, a little bit of a betrayer. So Mike is his name.
Oh, Mike, yeah.
I mean, the whole
who comes in as like a celebrity photographer,
right?
Like he's like as if he's working under the guise of like, oh, I'm like a National Geographic guy. Tell me about your war stories. I'm gonna bang the local reporter.
Bang everybody in this movie.
Take great pictures of eagles.
Okay. I guess he didn't bang, the main character, but Stella. So I was like, but he's like a little,
almost
so close.
Almost. He's like, I am kind of bored. I live in a swamp. Well, not a swamp. I guess this is the edge of a lake, in a small town. And she's the only proprietor because all the hillbillies buy everything at her boat shop. Like you can rent the boat, you can buy the bait, rent the boat. She also sells Coca-Cola. What else? She's got the beers. She's got the Paps on hand.
Yeah.
Everything.
All the things. But why I like him is because
and she may have invented Airbnb because he stays in her house the night he tries to hook up with her. Anyway.
Well, and I do like that he kind of alludes to the main guy, Jim's character, like that he's been over there and like slept over at her house, and like it obviously gets everybody in a tizzy.
Well, okay, Jim's a wild man, and his scent is everywhere. Okay, like this guy has marked his territory. You know he's coming from a mile away. That guy's well, I said wild. We'll get into it in a little bit. But.
Yeah, for sure. I just like that you don't really know if Mike is a villain or if he's an ally. He plays both in the movie, and
that's one of the best parts of the movie. You don't know till almost the third act. You don't really know which way it's gonna go.
Well, and that's what I love is like he's there on a mission to like steal these eagle eggs, but he like kind of
for a personal and shallow reason. He's like trying to finance his next rock climb. Some rich guy paid him like $250,000. Go get me the bald eagle eggs. There's a blink and you miss it scene though, where you think that the rich guy just wants to eat the egg. Like, so if you go back to the beginning of the movie and you look at the eggs, there's like missing egg spots, right? You're like, oh, those are just the exotic eggs he hasn't collected yet.
Right.
But then they specifically have a cutaway scene
where
at the end of the movie where he's eating an egg. And so you just take a minute. It's not explained in the movie, but your imagination suggests, oh, he's eating them.
It's interesting that you say that. That was not a possibility when I was thinking it and when I was watching it. And then now you say it, I'm like, yeah, that's his obsession. Obviously to do the egg collection, but it's like, I'm sure he just like can't help himself from eating all these exotic eggs.
Yeah, take it to the next step. He's eating.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So weird. Yeah, no, it was, there was lots of good stuff surrounding, of course, Mike's character. I don't know. I love Jim as like this wild man and who's like doesn't really know a lot about like specifics of the wilderness, but he knows enough to like obviously be out there and be in the wild and like, he's thriving off the land and protecting all these animals. So
yeah. And that's my first favorite bit is like the first impression is that he's a wild nut on an island, that he's like a veteran who like just completely snapped. Like he's protecting the animals, as like a pen. You think like as a penance or a reference to like how he dealt with coming back from the war. But then like you find out, oh no, there's like, it's all very specific. It's like actually an animal sanctuary he started and he was gifted the land from his parents. It's actually it's really his island. Like you think he just has like taken up residency in the
on
wilderness,
this island,
and has decided just to keep other humans away, which would, if it's public land, he can't do, and that's why you think he's just a wild nutbag. But then you find out, oh no, this is his land, his animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's his private property. So, yeah,
and the movie doesn't tell you for a while, so you're kind of like you're going back and forth about like what's going on. You know,
I thought he was gonna be the thief in the very beginning scene, right? As the opening credits happen, because he's up there. He looks like he's scheming. He's got his like, I don't know,
got
glass
crazy
eye
goggles
patch.
And a crossbow, and he's riding a horse like he's out of the Middle Ages, and
up there petting the eggs, the eagle eggs with the eagle behind him. I was like, okay, so here's the thief, but he's not, you know. So
he can speak bird, obviously.
Yeah, apparently.
What did? Oh, I love that when he shot out the safety cable and Mike fell, he knocked the rock climber down into the waterfall. Like, pretty dramatic, because you see him like calculating like, what is the chance that if I knock him down he won't die versus he will die versus like I'm gonna exaggerate and get my point across, right? Because like again, like I don't want, it's not like Rambo cheesy or like Rambo extreme like 80s action violence. It's like they do push Jim, like there's some hillbilly hunters who do push him to a certain line, and then he does use violence.
Well, yeah, they were being so excessive. You see all the dead birds in the beginning of the movie. I was so heartbroken. I was like so devastated. I'm like, you can't just be shooting all the birds out of the sky. What are you going to do with them? And there's just a big pile of dead birds. Made me so mad. So those hillbillies got it.
Okay. So then there's the hookup scene in a barn, right?
There is, yes.
I don't know. This is like a blink and you miss it during the montage of the lovemaking, but did you see the toe sucking?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was like, this is wild. I was like, wait a minute. So then
He's
I'm
a wild
like,
man. What did you expect?
Then I'm sitting there going, did Rutger Hauer and Kathleen Turner actually hook up in this movie? Or is it just edited that well? Did the filmmakers do such a good job of just slapping that scene together? I'm like, because even during an improv, I mean, I'm like, is this why we have these sex coordinators now on set? Or is this them old school days where it was just like, hey, what happened happens? And we just get cut together.
Roll with it.
And like the only people that know are the sound guy, the boom guy, the guy who shot the movie, maybe the director, the production assistant intern that was on set. Could you imagine like being the intern, like you're like Bobby the intern, and goes home, they're like, oh, you know, how was your day at like, you know, New York Film School? It's like, well, I got to go out and we were in the woods. There's guys chasing eagles and hunters, and at one point, Rutger Hauer stuck Kathleen Turner's foot in his mouth. You're just like, damn, what an education.
So good. I also love that the reporter kind of got what she deserved. You know, she's
well, first of all,
she's throwing it back a little too easy.
He's not kind of a POS because there's kind of like, he has a redemptive arc. He decides not to sell the eagles out to the rich guy. He backs up the family. He helps them celebrate the son's birthday, which is actually one of the only scenes where they deal with like also like a bipolar type issue with Jim's character, like Rutger Hauer's character, because he was like setting up for the family to come on that day, but then the day finally arrives and he's like having an episode and he can't actually deal with it when they get there, even though he's been thinking about it. I'm like, oh, it's anxiety, it's all these things. But yeah, after hooking up with the reporter, she comes back in the end and he's covering up the story because he doesn't want them to expose the island to like the whole nation or whatever. So they leave him alone, leave his buddy alone. But then like he ends up dating, or it's implied that he's going to now date they're going to have a more permanent relationship. So
yes. And he throws her the bone of still getting her a story, which is telling on the billionaire egg collector.
Oh yeah, there's this dude out there, you know, like Eggerson, you know. I don't remember the character's name who ate the egg, but
that was a good.
I mean, if there's one-dimensional character, like Donald Pleasance is a good actor, but the plot device is one-dimensional. Like, hey, I'm so rich, I need all the eggs.
I need all the eggs.
Yeah, I need all the eggs, and you're the guy who's gonna go get the eggs. Okay. We have our own custom-made rating system. If you've ever heard an episode before, you know it's binge now, watch it now, binge later, get to it eventually. Binge never. You can't get the 90 minutes to 2 hours of your life back. Why'd you waste your time? Where's this movie land for you?
It was a binge now for me. I loved Rutger Hauer. I just feel like he kind of has this like little bit of a weird, like kind of sort of cheeky, still attractive vibe to him. So was really drawn to his character. I like that he had some conflict. Yeah, and I'm here for the bald eagles. So binge now for me. So it was quick. It went quick.
So it's a binge later for me only because I think like if you're going through the Rutger Hauer catalog, eventually you get to a breed apart because you've already seen like Blade Runner, you've already seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Blind Fury, The Hitcher, Split Second, which is one of my all-time favorites. Like he's really eccentric in that movie. You'd probably like him in that. That one's cool. Like all of England is flooded. He keeps eating chocolates for the caffeine. He gets bigger and bigger guns because he's like a detective and he's psychically linked to some monster in the subway that's killing everybody in London or in the future or whatever after the world's flooded. It's pretty cool.
Well, and to your point, if it was reversed, if this was the first thing that you had seen of his, then it's going to send you down that rabbit hole. And so I'm like,
oh, you're saying this could be a good starter movie? Like if you see him in this, you're like, is he more eccentric in other movies? Is he more dramatic? Like what other movies is this dude in? Who is this guy? Yeah. I mean, I can't say like Rutger Hauer is like one of my all-time favorite actors, and he's known for Blade Runner because he improvised like the most memorable lines like ever. He says, "We're all just memories lost in time, like tears in the rain," is what he says in that movie, and it's when his character is dying, and in that moment, if you watch that movie, it's like he's encapsulating the whole human experience in this 9-minute sequence or whatever, right? So it's like, and like, people are always talking about him in that movie, obviously. Yeah, right before we came on tonight, I was like, who is my favorite actor? And Rutger probably ranks like in the top 3.
Dang.
So that's pretty close to not. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many movies I've seen. A lot.
I'm gonna mark it down to see how many more top 3s.
You're like, when he says Kurt Russell 7 episodes from now, you're like, hey John, when we started this thing back up again, you said Rutger Hauer top 3, dude.
I'm bookmarking this moment for future use.
Yeah. But Binge Later is still good. Oh, you might also have seen him in more recent times in a movie called Hobo with a Shotgun. He plays a lot of eccentric characters, but he's a really interesting actor to watch on screen. Pretty captivating. Oh, okay. About the fans, I got asked to make a video about the Cyclops in Crawl because I had made a short video about our Crawl episode and put it out there in like the stratosphere or whatever, the internet land, when we did our Crawl episode. But then I was like, he's like, do a reaction video specifically about the Cyclops. And I'm like, I don't like to repeat content. Like, I feel like we already sat down and we already told you about the Cyclops and we told you about Krull. So I was just like, dude, go find the episode where we talk about the Cyclops and Krull because we've already done it. you know what I mean? But I guess I could just easily say, like, the Cyclops is the coolest character in the whole show who gives up his immortality to help the humans kill the freaking outer space demons. Anyway. Staff picks. Other than the movie of the week, which is really funny. I did not know she was going to say a binge now on this one because I was conflicted about actually picking this one because, again, like, I don't think it's the strongest Rutger Hauer, even though you said it's a good intro movie to his acting style, which is good to know because we were talking about biases a little while ago. Obviously, I have my already like imprinted stamp of what I thought the experience would be like. So you rated it much higher than I thought. You know what I mean? Like this was an iffy choice for me, only because the movie I had wanted to watch has like disappeared from like you can't watch it, which is like why it's really scary that every company's like not printing DVDs have like decided that this year they're gonna stop printing movies. I wanted to watch The Electric Horseman. The only reason The Electric Horseman was on Netflix for the last few months was because Robert Redford and Jane Fonda did a sexagenarian couple in their 60s rom-com or drama or something that Netflix had produced. So they had that movie on Netflix, and they're like, oh, let's go get the original romance movie they were in, this cowboy romance thing that they were in. However, it has a great title. It's called The Electric Horseman. It's about a rodeo cowboy that's like semi-retired and is having a problem with drinking, and he keeps getting pulled out to the conventions and just like introduces brands of cereal and cars and the other rodeo riders. But his suit lights up. Like, that's the gimmick. Like, his suit has to light up, right? To make him electric, right? Like Christmas lights and his thing lights up. Ooh. And so, I'm depressed on New Year's or whatever. I'm texting Jordan. And I'm like, have you heard of this freaking movie called The Electric Horseman? Like
the plot sounded so good too.
Yeah,
so
dude,
I regret.
Because so he runs into an old rodeo horse that's being mistreated by the company that sponsors him to go around and do these promotional events. And I'm like, well, obviously we discussed earlier in the episode how I feel burned by sponsors. I'm in a punk rock mode. Now I'm watching a movie about an old rodeo cowboy who's screwed over by a company, and then the horse gets screwed over by the company. He's like, I'm going to set this horse free. So then he steals the horse. They go galloping off, but he's trailed by a reporter like Jane Fonda, who's like capturing the story of what's going on. Of course they're going to fall in love. Of course they're going to fall. I mean, this is an A-B plot. You can, but Willie Nelson plays one of his handlers, and like then they incorporated Willie Nelson's song, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys into the movie.
Mamas don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Yeah. That just cost us like $300,000 right there.
No,
just kidding. But I'm like, how much did it cost the movie? If we had done The Electric Horseman, I was going to try to find out how much did it cost to include Willie's song, because there were 2 Willie songs in that movie at least, and they played the Mama's song like 3 times at least. I'm like, each one of those times, I'm like, how much money? you know what I mean? Like,
but do you think they cut deals like for him to be like? I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe they pay extra because he's in the movie.
It's possible that because of Willie's stardom and his music, it's probably because of the music rights might have something to do with the fact that the movie is not widely circulated because of the cost to
like license.
That's like, I don't know if that's his most popular song, but it's one of his most popular songs, and that's like having a movie with a Queen song in it,
right?
You know what I mean? Or a commercial with a Queen song. It's like, Willie Nelson, he's like in his 90s now, but he's one of the greatest living country singers of probably all time. He comes from the Highwaymen with Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings. Crack open a little bit of country. Wow. Now we're nostalgic now. Like we weren't earlier. Got there eventually. That's also one of my favorite songs of all time. Anyway,
makes me think of Lake Powell days for sure.
But this movie, Electric Horseman, is so good and so simple a plot. Rodeo cowboy is angry that they mistreat a horse, kidnaps the horse to set it free. Like in film school, in like the first month, they go, keep it simple, keep it as simple as possible. Tell the best story, keep it as simple as possible. I'm like, it doesn't. Rodeo cowboy upset about how they mistreat a horse, steals the horse. That you know what I mean? Like. They could teach it actually if they wanted to in a screenplay course, but obviously they'd have to. I don't know where they're going to track down a copy of the movie. I'm really worried actually about movies. Like I don't know if they're. I've Googled before. Like, are there nonprofits that are like saving copies of movies because they're just going to literally disappear, which is kind of a crazy thought. Anyway. I mean, and not the industry. The industry's not doing anything to help movies right now either. You know what I mean?
No, it is not.
So they're almost making it like that that it's all absurd that movies should not be preserved because of the way they're making them now.
Yep, extremely tumultuous. So.
Oh, and then it suggests a nefarious reason to let DVDs and VHS and all that stuff disappear, physical media to go away because they want to boost the streamers. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, it's all correlated. Anyway. I don't want to get too political. Just love movies. There's other things. I mean, it used to be a movie show only, but I'm like, oh no, there's so much else going on. Anyway, what have you watched?
I hopped on the bandwagon with everybody and watched Saltburn, and it's just been burned in my head since I watched it.
So, Was it because you heard a rumor about a bathtub scene?
Of course.
Or just how nihilistic and sociopathic the entire movie is. Like,
it was both. Everybody who recommended it to me was incredibly vague.
Or was it the Dancing Wang?
It was all three, like it tied. Yeah, I'm like, okay, Jacob Elordi is very good looking, and when you talk about his bathwater, I'm immediately interested.
Someone made a candle, supposedly.
I saw that. Yeah, it was like interesting. This has my attention. But yeah, it was definitely worth a watch. My boyfriend couldn't sit through it the entire time, but I feel like he kind of popped out at the worst opportunity. And I feel like if you hang out,
did he just start yelling, "This movie makes me feel weird"?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was just but I'm gonna make him watch it because it was. I did like it. I did like it. Obviously, I'm still thinking about it, and I think that there's like the whole intention behind it is to like still be thinking about it, and yeah, very interesting coming of age movie if that's what you want to call it. But I had a great time watching it. And I'm on my true crime stuff, but we don't have to talk about a whole lot of that right now. We don't want to, but
hey, catch up with us on Castbox. Leave us a comment. Subscribe if you haven't. Maybe we'll make some more podcasts. I don't even like to call them podcasts anymore. I might just say show. Like, I'm tired of that word, even though it's in the title of our show because I thought that was funny. But it was also a keyword. What's a keyword? If you don't know marketing, I can't help you. Like, there's a reason to like. It's the Binge-Watchers podcast because podcast always in the word. So then like apps double up the word podcast. But I'm like, yeah, because the greatest keyword in podcast when you Google something is the word podcast. And I'm like, it's both a joke and a keyword. Figure that out. Yeah, dang.
First episode of 2024, baby.
Yeah. I'm in a very dark place, and so this is going to be a dark year. We're going to watch a lot of movies, but I'm going to be kind of mean. Or not mean, just kind of like, it's a better word.
Buckle up, baby. Buckle up.
Buckle up. It's going to be a ride this year.
It's going to be a wild ride.
And there's no airbags.
The safety belt might not be working, so just, get loose.
Well, apparently the airplanes are broken anyway. Nobody's been fixing them. I don't know if you heard the stories where like the bolts are literally falling out. Entire sides of planes are just falling out during flights.
They're like,
whatever.
Just don't go up to, just don't go up that high. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great.